Hey, so today I thought I would talk about my work in progress just because I've made a couple videos now and I'm still getting my feet wet with just uploading to YouTube, filming myself, talking in front of a camera. And so I decided that I would just talk about something that I feel somewhat comfortable discussing. Um, and that is my work in progress, which is this. This is not the book itself, this is just my journal of notes where I have basically plotted the entire story. The book itself is called The Hunter, the Hunted. It is the first in a duology. This is a tragedy. I've never written a tragedy before, but I love sad, heart-wrenching endings. I don't know why. There's just something very cathartic about God, this sounds horrible. There's something about watching characters that you love going through all the struggles, experiencing these like horrible events, and you empathize with them, and they're doing their absolute best, and they still just don't quite get exactly what they want. I grew up with a lot of stories about heroes versus villains. I mean, it's a classic story of good always winning, and the heroes are always just morally good, and they always do the right thing. Um, and yes, we need stories like that, absolutely, especially in today's world. I just got tired of them, I guess. I wanted to see stories where good people good, because I think there's a line that's quite blurred between good and bad. So you have these people, they are real and they're messy, and they make decisions that they can justify, but maybe you don't necessarily see how the ends justify the means, is what I'm trying to say. Um, so that's why I decided to write a tragedy. When I was thinking about this story of The Hunter, the Hunted, it actually came to me as a short story. I was drafting just like a week before the deadline for some literary journal. They wanted just winter short stories. It was supposed to be 5,000 words or less. So that was the first draft of The Hunter, the Hunted. It was like I think it was just under 5,000 words. And even then, the story between this witch in the woods, she lives alone, she kind of just minds her own business, but she encounters a man who is very skeptical of her way of life, her practices. Um, but in the story, she tries to befriend him. He's injured, so she takes him in, nurses him back to health. They sort of somewhat spark up a friendship. That's how it went in the short story. It was a friendship first, um, but of course, his skepticism got to him, his fear got to him, and ultimately, no more friendship. I'll let you fill in the blanks there. So I submitted the story. It was again, I wrote it in a week, so it was not good at all. So the rejection was absolutely justified. I have no qualms against that. And at the time, anyway, I had already I was on track to publish my first book, which is Unraveled, book one of the Stormbringer saga, which is an ongoing series. It's just on hiatus because I'm working on this tragedy right now. Um, so I just kind of put the story of The Hunter, the Hunted away. And then after Unraveled was published last January, the hype was amazing. I had a lot of support, a lot of excitement. And then if you've ever published anything and you know that the buildup is so great, there's a lot of work, a lot of energy going into publishing a book. And then when it's out there in the world, it's just out there and it's done. And it's just hands off, just watch people react to it, watch people read it. And yeah, it was an incredible experience over this past year, just watching people read my book, send so many nice messages about it. It's been great. But for me, it was kind of damn, my book baby's out there. What do I do? It's kind of there's an emptiness, and The logical thing would have been to just be like, all right, book one is out. Let's start on book two in the series. So I tried that, tried it for a good month or two. And every time I sat down to write this second book of my Stormbringer saga, my first one, it just was not happening. I was getting fed up not only with the story itself, but with the characters. And for me, that's a big red flag because in any story that I write, the characters almost always come first. Like the world is built around them, the story is built around who they are, but the characters are the core of everything that I ever write. So to be going into this series that I put so much time into already and that I loved so much, just to come away from every writing session kind of hating these characters more and more, I was like, okay, something is wrong. I need to step back. And so I did. And that's when I came back to The Hunter the Hunted. I was like, okay, well, I have this story of like a witch in the woods, which is, I love that vibe. I love like a darker, kind of spooky, a little bit folkloric. And so I was like, let me just kind of play around with this idea. I already have somewhat of a draft. Let me see if I can expand this story. So I did. In this journal, I delved deeper into who these characters are, and like I said before, the world just sort of came into view after I got to know these characters, the witch and the witch hunter. So already the hunter the hunted was a little bit different. Because I don't typically plot my stories at all. I usually just have a concept of the character, of their arc, and how that affects the world around them, and then I just start writing. Um, I couldn't very well do that with The Hunter the Hunted, and I think it's because I already wrote it once as a short story, so I already kind of had these preconceptions about what was supposed to happen. I just didn't know how. So I had to I went chapter by chapter, which again is a very different process for me. I don't typically plot out my stories at all. Um, and it took me like a full day to plot just the first book. I haven't plotted the second one. Um, and I need to do that because it's got to be written. I can't just end this story on a cliffhanger. There's too much that still needs to happen. So that's what I've been working on in 2025. And actually, up to this point, too, I'm still working on The Hunter the Hunted. I intend to publish it by the end of this year. Hopefully, we'll see. Um, I'm going to go with a self publishing route this time. My first book is traditionally published, it's just with an indie press. Like, it's not like a big name publisher, but it is, in all sense of the word, traditionally published. So, The Hunter the Hunted will be my first indie publishing endeavor, which I'm excited about because I had a lot of fun preparing my first book for self publishing. And that's a whole other story of how I went from self publishing to suddenly getting signed with a press. And that'll probably, I can talk about that in a different video. Anyway, The Hunter the Hunted will be out at the end of this year. And so let me just talk a little bit about the story, the characters, as much as I can, at least without spoiling the entire thing. Because I've already stated that it's a tragedy, so you can kind of expect that things are not going to be sunshine and rainbows, which, if that's not your story, then this is not the book for you. But this is the book that I'm writing. And let's see. Main characters. The story is different because, first of all, I'm writing it in the first person, which I don't typically enjoy doing. And I'm also writing it from a male perspective, which I also don't do all the time. Um, so that's already right off the bat, it's such a different vibe from my first book, which is two female perspectives in the third person. So The Hunter the Hunted is just initially such a different feel. And you have this character, his name is Samuel Hawthorne. He is the ex witch hunter. He was injured in an attack that left him paralyzed for a little bit. He eventually healed, but is permanently scarred, both physically and emotionally. So he has a lot of trauma about these witch folk that live in the world that I've created for this duology. And so he is just, at the start of the book, he is just seeking respite. He wants a break from all of his years of witch hunting. He's like, you know what? I just went through hell. I lost all my friends. My father's dead. I was injured in this horrible attack. So I don't want anything to do with hunting witches at all. Like, I'm just done. So the book starts where he is settling into his new life in this somewhat peaceful village up in the northern hinterlands of his country. And everything seems to be going kind of okay. And then there's one night where it's rumored that these woods right outside the village that he's moved into are occupied by witch folk. So Samuel hears that there's something in these woods. The townspeople think it's a witch. He's not so sure. He's really hoping they're not right. But given his past occupation as a witch hunter, he feels obligated to assuage people's fears. So he goes into the woods at night and he encounters a monster. And so he's hurt. He wakes up in the care of Callista Fairchild, that is his love interest, and she also happens to be a witch. But she is not like the witches that he's had to encounter during his days of witch hunting. She is a healer. And this is this is like the core of this story, really, is Samuel and Callista learning that, well, for Samuel, he has to learn that not all witch folk are violent or cruel or hellbent on destroying this empire that he's lived in his entire life. In fact, a lot of the witch folk are actually victims of the witch hunts that he himself has participated in. And so Callista represents she is just the antithesis of everything Samuel's ever known. And as she heals him and they spend more time together, they just naturally learn more about each other. They learn more about each other's peoples and each other's worlds. And you see these barriers begin to crumble between them. They start to slowly gain affection for each other. So don't get too attached, because I will remind you again, this is a tragedy. So without spoiling anything, things are not going to go as smoothly as we would wish. It would be very pretty and very nice to have a world where people from conflicting sides can just overcome each other's differences and learn to embrace each other for all their flaws. Maybe there's some way that Samuel can get over his own fears, or maybe Callista can forgive everything that Samuel's people have done to hers. And it didn't work. They are both just so loyal to their own people and their own pasts and their own hurts, that it's just not possible for them in this particular world. Stories like this, at least this is what I believe, stories that portray tragedies like this, where bridges can't be crossed, crimes and horrors cannot be forgiven, that is just as necessary as stories of forgiveness. And so it's been more timely than I realized writing this book. It's been like I feel like I'm navigating very very sensitive ground. So I've done my best to take care as I'm writing this story, because it is fiction, but a lot of it is also taken from actual real world histories and events and things that people have gone through. That's what I've been writing since 2025. So for about a year now, I've been writing it. I'm at its current stage. I am nearing the end of revisions, and once I do that, draft 3 will be completed. Um, and I'm excited to see the end of this book. Like I said, it's a duology. So this first one ends on a cliffhanger. The second one ends with not a happy ending. I just yeah. Um it's such a strange, not strange. It's a massive contrast from writing my first series, which is the Stormbringer saga, which is a story of justice, self-identity, redemption. So there's a lot of like high fantasy, um just danger, high stakes, that sort of vibe. But it's much more in the sense of like, yes, there are dangerous things in the world and dangerous people, but we're all here together and we're all here trying to overcome this thing together. The Hunted is a very different story. Energetically, it's a quieter story. It's the world itself is not something that I feel the need to dive into as much as with my other series. Just because with the Hunted, the story is very much just about these two characters and what happens between them. So, the Hunted is in its final stages of drafting, I would say. Um, Revisions, we'll see, because while I've made really good progress through draft 3 and revising things and kind of building up where there needs to be more information or taking away scenes that aren't really relevant anymore, it's it's constantly changing, you know. If you're a writer or any other kind of creative, you know that like every draft that you finish is sort of like a milestone, and then the next one that you start, you have like these ideas of how you want it to go, but then as you continue, all these other ideas start pouring in. So it's just constantly alive and constantly changing and shifting in ways that you didn't necessarily perceive before you jumped into it. So then you have to make notes as you're going through this next draft for the next draft. Like, this is what I want to change. So that's why it takes a while, in case anyone's like, just write a book. It's not that hard. Um, don't believe that. That's bullshit. Um, this is gonna make me sound so sadistic, um, but it's fun to play God with these fictional characters. It's fun to create them with all their flaws and just know where they're gonna go and where they're gonna end up. And I'm enjoying it. I'll just have to leave it at that because anything else is just gonna sound horrible. Um, but yeah, that's my work in progress. And the Stormbringer saga will continue when I finish this duology. It's the reason why I decided to take a step away is just kind of what I said before. I'd been working on it for 5.5 years. So before it was published last January, Unraveled had already taken up half of my 20s. And I was like, I think I need something else just for now. Um, just as sort of like a palate cleanser. And already, even before this tragedy is out yet, I'm already starting to feel that itch to get back to the Stormbringer saga. So there's that's my promise right now, is that this larger series that I published first will be finished someday in the future, just not yet. because for whatever reason, this tragedy is just saying, I need to be like, put me first. Um, that's what it's saying. So I'm listening to it. I'm listening to that creative urge, and I hope people enjoy it. I hope that with everything going on, I can get this book out by the end of the year like I plan to. But if you've paid attention to anything, you know that things are very tumultuous right now. I'll say that. Um, so we'll see. I will do my best. I will try to create updates here and as well as on my Instagram, my Ko-fi as well. Um, but yeah, that is my that's my little ramble for today. Thank you for letting me talk about my books. Um, if you want to learn more about Unraveled, the Stormbringer saga, um, my website is in the description. You can go find everything I've written there. Unraveled is my first book. I have published 2 other short stories as well. So you can go check those out on my website. That's www.authorkitaldridge.com. And I hope you enjoy. If you decide to read Unraveled, I genuinely thank you. Honestly, that's what I have to say first. And so anytime that someone picks it up and they just take the time to read it, that's honestly just like more than I expected when I started writing this book. So thank you for giving it a chance. And if you like what you read and you choose to stick with me on this writing journey and you pick up The Hunt of the Hunted when it's finally out and you read it and you like it and you read the sequel when that's out, then again, thank you. I'm just so grateful for people who read my work. I think anyone can attest to this, whether you're a writer, an artist, a singer, any kind of creative. It's just such an amazing feeling knowing that people are invested in your work, you know? So, yeah, that is that's all I have for you today. I hope you all enjoy your weeks. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!